Welcome to this YouTube movie. Today we are going to change the suspension arm on the back side of this XC90. It's a 2017 model with air suspension. The rear suspension arms are worn. I have about 220,000 kilometers on it. They are in okay shape, but the front bushings on the back are torn. So for me the reason to remove them and to change them with new. I had ordered the parts online here in Europe. We are in Sweden right now. It's a little bit tricky to get a hand of the original parts, but with waiting time I have done it. And we are also going to change the sway bar links. So if you see me clamp on the rubber hoses on the old one, it's because I changed them also for new ones, just like a precautionary. It's a little bit harder to do with suspension that is air suspension than with normal conventional suspension. Any information online was missing, so that's the reason for me to make this movie, and hopefully it helps you guys when you remove the sway bars or the suspension arms or anything component on that. Also, it's also a part of changing the billows, the air suspension bags. It's actually more likely the same procedure, so I hope this helps you guys out to do it yourself. I have done the right side already. It's still a learning process. Because I don't find any information online, it's really hard to know what you're doing. At first I wanted to do it without removing the air out of the airbag, but it wasn't working because there was so much tension on the system. So then I removed the air out of the airbag and it went way easier. So I hope that this left side goes way easier than the right side, and that I can bring you guys along and do it yourself and save some money. After this procedure you will need to do adjustment to make all the alignment in order and correct, because after this procedure the alignment should be off. I've booked a date next week, so hopefully I get it finished today, and I don't have to cancel the booking. So let's get started. So let's connect the negative battery first. I put a glove underneath it because otherwise it make contact. I actually think that it's not necessary to remove or inactivate the air suspension adjustment, because if you disconnect the battery, normally the system would disconnect and would not adjust for the air suspension. If you remove this panel, it's also good to show and get a look for the rear evaporator system. Here there is a potential leak point. A lot of these vehicles, when they become older, they have a leak point. It's already fixed. So before raising the car up completely, I'm going to break loose these bolts. So now we have a visual on the suspension parts. So what we are going to do is disconnect the plastic fittings on the top of the suspension arm, remove with a 7mm bolt the calibration arm that is attached to adjust the height of the car. Then we're going to remove this bolt on the left side. There's also a bolt in through the bushing. Then there's a bolt on the back side, and then there's two bolts on the upper side, upper left. And we are going to remove or loosen this fitting here, so all the air would escape out of the airbag, which would make it a lot easier to refit the system, because otherwise it would just counteract with each other. So everything is dusted off now. So it's time to remove the plastic fitting, which holds the lines for the electric shock absorbers. So I have removed the plastic holders here. So now I'm going to remove the 7mm bolt in the back. So after this, with a 12mm wrench, you want to remove this coupler and try to get the stones out of it beforehand. I just blew it off, and still there are some stones of the Swedish roads between it, and I don't want to get these stones into the air system, so I hope I can get them out. That's it. So it's actually pretty loose, which I wasn't expecting. So I think you shouldn't be tightening it too much. Pay attention for this tube to not wind with it, so let it wind like with ease, and then just turn it a couple notches so air can escape, and don't actually loosen it all the way, because you might risk having problems getting it in or getting the O-ring the back way, the wrong way in. So there should be a 15mm on this one. Yeah, 15. So it's a 15mm on the shock. So now it's loose on the front, but I am going to remove those two, because that would make it a lot easier to remove and refit everything. And now it turns with the movement of the machine. So I'm going to clamp this ball joint, and then it's quite easy. Same thing on here. And like I said, I'm going to install new ones. So this is no problem. This is a little bit harder, because here you need an 18mm and you don't have any space. Luckily it's not too tight. Well, you get the idea. So I'm going to remove this. It's a little bit of wrenching. Then there is a 15mm, no, a 13mm, excuse me, right through here. Let me check that. Is that a 13? Okay, I had it wrong. Then it's a 15 maybe. Yeah, it's a 15. Then you have those two 15s and then an 18 over here. And then the sway bar will, or the control arm will disconnect, because there's no tension in the airbag anymore. That should be quite loose right now. Okay, so I am learning as I go here. I just removed the sway bar links, but now I see that when I lower this suspension arm, this entire knuckle system has nothing to bear on, so the axle could get unsupported and disconnect. So what I just did is reconnect the sway bar link just by hand to make way of the knuckle being supported by this sway link, because that way the knuckle is not coming down, because it's hanging on this point. So we are going to disconnect the final bolt now, then the entire suspension arm will be able to loosen, and after we reinstall the new system, the new suspension arm, after that we are going to change this one. It's actually quite easy to remove this if you lower it a little bit, so it's good to time, like just after you installed your new suspension arm, then install this system, and after that you can adjust everything else. Just figure it out by yourself mainly, but keep in mind to keep this adjusted and put on until you like installed the new one, because otherwise this will be unsupported. So I just moved the camera so you will be able to see this last step. For me it's also kind of new. I'm going to put some tension on the suspension arm. The last bolt is already loose, so I'm going to try to get it out and then let the suspension arm fall on the floor. 18mm. The last part is always a bit tricky because the thread is unsupported. And there's some tension on it, but like you maybe could see, I just drove it out a little bit with tension with the tire tool. Let's make some room. Now it should be completely loose. Before you do, just look at all the components, if everything is free and able to move. Now I'm going to lower this one. The sway bar link will support the knuckle, so the knuckle stays in place. And now the entire suspension arm just falls on the ground, like that. So now you will be able also to see how many debris is catching on the floor here, right under the bellow, which is hanging by a plastic piece here. So I removed the part. My neighbor came around, so I had to quit a little bit faster. But I think you could see. I think you could see that the suspension arm was coming out like this. So we are going to put it up again. Make sure not to damage the height adjustment sensor. And now we are going to move it in. Looks like the bolt on the right side should go in, but I can't see it quite clearly. Yeah, that goes in so it stays in place. Here on the underside there is a knuckle with a ball joint, and you can like get it in place with the largest screwdriver so it lines up with the knuckle above it, because otherwise you like could damage the rubber seals on it. So it's important to make sure that this knuckle is like right in place, so it can get a little bit extra careful there. Then it's important to get the two bolts in there lined up, so these will make sure that the entire knuckle assembly is at the right spot, and it's easier to finish it like that, but it's kind of hard to see here. It doesn't work. I think I'll have to move my jack around a little. Get some extra tension on it. Like you see now, the entire assembly should click in place. Make sure that this ball joint is sliding over comfortably. This shock will move towards you. Every time you move around, the shock will push itself into these wedges here. So make sure you keep moving this in front of you, so you don't wedge this up and make your life harder. I hope the most farthest away is able to go in now. Nope. That's not willing to go. It's really hard to do when it's skewed. So in the beginning this was the hardest part. Like, it's really hard to get it completely good into the hole first. So maybe with my right arm. Yeah, now it goes in. Great, so now I can just, if everything goes well, add another extension. So the right side is kind of snug now. The left side is dropping to the lower. So I'm going to try to jack it up a little bit with my little tool. So let's get it first, the bolt into the hole, and then try to, oh, that's not working. I really hope this works. It's kind of hard to tell. It's in. So I can tighten this up. But I'm also only going to do it like just barely fit it. And I will tighten it up later. So now, hopefully, this one will go in a little easier. It's too large. Well, that was easy. Getting this hand fitted. And this also slides right in. So I also see if I raise this up, that bolt moves, so I hope really easy. Should not snug it up completely because I have to jack up the entire suspension into the normal rate position and then finish all the bolts. So for now, loosen this tension here. The only one I have left is on that side, so before I lose tension, this was the most problematic on the other side. So I really hope that it goes a little bit easier right now. This is now not needed anymore. So I can loosen this up. So maybe it's now also a good time to talk about these. These are the old ones, and this is the new one. The old one, it's like smooth, there's no play. This is a little bit tighter, but no play. As you can see, this one is way thicker, the ball joints are thicker. Other than that, comparable. This is Volvo original, and this is Miele HD. Miele HD makes great components, at least if you ask me, and they make the original parts even better. So I'm going to install the new one whilst I'm here. I think it's good to make up for this moment. And it's really hard to move these around. These are really tight, so I have to get them into place without damaging the threads too much. Sorry, I dropped it. Now I can finish these up. And I want to show you how I do these upper ones. So you have to get the Torx wrench. This is a Wera set, and I think it's orange. Yeah, it's orange. Then I put this one in here, and then you can get the 18 millimeters on top of this one. So I'm going to finish this up, bolt this down. This bolt I'm trying to wiggle it up to get this in line. Last time I used a mirror in order for me to look through the hole and get the holes aligned, which made life a lot easier. So for this you can use a mirror, and for this you use a Torx wrench and then an 18 millimeter. And then here you place the bolts down. Don't fix it just yet. Fix the bolts when the car is up on the ramps. After I'm done, I'm going to put the car on ramps, and then after it's on ramps and placed on the normal riding height, I'm going to fit all the bolts down. And then after we are done and everything is in place here, it's also a good time to like bolt down the bellow again. What I want to give as a tip here is that if you have the bellow up, the bolt that you have here is going up also, because it's not hanging on the plastic support there. So it's I think a good tip to raise the jack up, get the suspension up, get this bellow into the top mount here. That way it's really easy to tighten this fitting again. Now you can't put a wrench in it because the flange here is in the way. Okay. Okay, this has cost me a great deal of time, but I want to show you this bolt here is a pain in the ass to get in. I lift it here, right underneath the shock absorber, and then I drag it right in front of me, like this way up. And that was the only way to get these bolts lined up. So now I have the bolt going in, and I can tighten it in up, which is a really great feeling after struggling for so long. Now I'm going to get my bolt driver. See you in a sec. So now I have been checking it up. And I have this little nipple here. I hope it shows on camera. It's quite tricky to get it right there, right on top of the bellow. And I'm going to tighten it up again. And of course it's very important after this action to make sure there's no leaks. And now is also a good moment to make sure that this tube is not going with you. And still it's kind of slippery because there's no air in the bellow. But there it is. Still loose. Just make sure that the nipple here is in the middle, so it's not touching any sides, and it's nice into this bottom here. So now I can lower this again and just place the clips into the arm. The plastic fittings of these hoses here, they broke off, which is to be expected. I think it's good for you to order a couple of these push-in clips that have a little tie rip on it to get this a little bit better fixed. I think I have to do this afterwards because I was not expecting this to break this easily. And also the new suspension arm has a little bit different placement of the hole, so you have to remove it and then replace it on a different place. So these plastic fittings, they break, and if they do, you have to just finish new ones and then, or buy new ones, order new ones, and then fit them there. The height calibration arm there with the height sensor, it's a little bit awkward because the bolt has no thread to go in, so it's just a thread by itself. I don't know. This bolt is pretty hard to locate, but it's best to do it at last, because then you have the other fixed points to get a grip on and just push against. The bolts here and there are like fixed but loose. They are loose because first I have to mount the wheel and then get the car on the ground. There will be no air into these bellows right now. So it's important to know that if you lower the car down, the car will lower more than you would expect because there's no air in this. After you start the car, after this job, of course after we reconnected the battery, it might not go into refill mode again at first. In my experience last time, we will see how this happens now, the car would only refill the airbag after the second attempt of starting the car. So it might be a different solution to like get software to it and really calibrate it that way, but I think the car will remember its original position, and because I just removed everything and just refit it, I expect I don't need to adjust the height. So we will see. I have to contact the garage to contact it and or to discuss it. And I have V-2 software, so I could also like later in line try to recalibrate it. But for now, I'm just going to put it back together to get it to alignment next week, and then like sort that things after. Also, this is the shock absorber. There's a little cable hanging over the suspension arm. There's a connector here. If you remove this shock absorber, it's actually quite easy. There's this bolt and these four, and then you reassemble it the other way around. It's actually a quite straightforward job to remove this shock absorber. The suspension bellow or suspension, I'm having trouble finding the right words. The airbag, that's the word I was searching for. The airbag is the ATE version, it's actually also quite easy to reinstall. You have to reinstall also a new O-ring here if you install a new airbag, I think. But as you can see here, it's actually a matter of deflating it, pushing it in, dragging it out, pushing a new airbag in, and then just go away, fly, and then just put in a new one. And I think then the air suspension will fill it up and recalibrate via the sensor there. So that should be a quite straightforward system also. The suspension links I just showed you, it's a great trick to get these smaller pliers, get it on the old ones, make sure you don't cross thread it, and then you can quite easily remove this bolt, which is normally quite hard if this is rusted and this turns with you. So that's actually a quite easy job to do. I think also the suspension sensor there is a quite straightforward one, because there's a little bracket there with a 7mm bolt and the bolt there. So that should be a quite easy job to do also. The suspension we just did was actually not that hard once you know that you need to empty this one. There's two other suspension link arms here. It's the upper one and the lower one. The lower one has one bolt here and then one bolt here, so that's actually quite straightforward also. Then you have the upper one, which has a go-through bolt here. There's a little nut here, and then you have to push it out because there's a like a fitting head. I think this is a little bit trickier to get out. Then here there's also another one which has like a similar fitment. It's a bolt head that it is pushed into this aluminium block that you need to slam out and then push a new one in. And it's the same construction here. So the upper construction arm, the upper link arm is done more or less the same. So actually it's quite easy to do. I think it's really well engineered in the sense of the fact that you can get by everything quite easily, like I just showed you with the extension here. It's actually quite easy to reach the bolt there and take it loose this way. So I think it's about 2 hours now, 1.5, to get this refitted and then go to the shop next Monday, like I said. The most difficult part was knowing which sequence, which I learned on the other side, is that you have to give this a loose bolt but keep it in place before you remove this one, because otherwise this knuckle has no support. It's easy to know now that this needs to be emptied, because it's also scary to do if you don't work with air suspension so much. It's quite scary to remove the air because you don't know what you get yourself into, but we have to see how it works right now. But I have seen on the other side that it's quite easy, and after 2 times starting it will fill itself up within 2 seconds. So then you think, well, okay, I made problems out of nothing. So I think this is now job done for the complicated part. Now I'm going to finish my jobs here, get the tools out of the way, get the wheel fitted, then get the car lowered down again. Then it will sink until like the bump stop here, and then I have to start the car up 2 times after reconnecting the battery, and then I think job done for now. So let's finish up this job real quick. I closed the boot, opened the car. I didn't even have to start it. It raced right up. So I think the mistake I made, which I thought about right now, was that I didn't close the boot. So then the car knows the boot is open. I shouldn't be going up, because then there might be damage going on. So close all the doors, then open the front door, close it again. No, the car needs to know that you are there, that you are activating the car again after you reconnected the battery, and then it will be like going right up. So now the only thing I have left to do is get the car onto ramps, get it to normal riding height, which is at it right now. Then I need to tension all the bolts to factory spec, and then I'm done for now. So thank you for joining me on this job. I'm not native English. I am not a car mechanic per se. I have done this for about 10 years now, so I know a little bit about car mechanics. I am an engineer, so I know how things work more or less, but nevertheless I'm still learning. This is a hard job to do if you're not used to it. After a couple times it's much easier. I know which sequence now. I hope I shared some tips about it, which might make it also easier for you, because after all I just made it for another person that should now be able to do it yourself and like prevent any stupid problems by doing it in the wrong order. So I hope that I helped you guys with that. For now I'm going to close off this video.